Hello neighbors, it's Brad here from eTrailer, and today we're taking a look at installing the eTrailer base plate on a 2017 Jeep Grand Cherokee. Now if you're flat towing your Grand Cherokee, a base plate is going to be one of the components that you're going to need to be able to hook up your tow bar and safety cables, as well as all of the rest of your components. And the eTrailer is a great option because it uses the spot where normally tow hooks would be or a plastic filler to get your arms to poke through, as well as your safety chains. And it also comes with a bracket to get it all installed. And it really is a fairly simple installation, but first let's take a closer look at some of the features of it. So as far as base plates on vehicles, a lot of times they are going to need to extend past the fascia, and you can be left with some, well, pretty rough looking vehicles that just aren't very clean looking. But this does a really good job overall. You have a matte black powder coat finish that'll hold up to elements long term, but also it's a little bit stealthier than just a gloss black. And as far as the look of it when you're not towing, your arms are going to be completely removable. You'll just simply pull out your pin, give this a quarter turn, and they slide out. They also include caps to put in the receiver openings, and that way you don't get any road grime or rust and corrosion buildup prematurely. When you are ready to flat tow, you just simply drop your arms in, give it a quarter turn, pin this back up, and then you'll be able to hook up to your tow bar. Now this style of receiver arm is going to work directly with your Blue Ox tow bars, your Demco tow bars, as well as eTrailer tow bars. If you do have a different tow bar, maybe a Roadmaster, it is going to be a different attaching point, but you can always change those out. You can get the adapters, and that way it'll still bolt up. So don't worry too much if you don't have the same brand. They don't have to be exactly the same. You just need to make sure that you have the pins and the adapters to hook it up. Now they give you a universal bracket, and on this vehicle it wasn't terribly hard to get mounted up. Some vehicles can be tricky. This one I just bent up the tabs and bolted it up to the bumper beam, and it allowed me to hook up the air fitting for our air brakes or our braking system, our diode wiring. We have our 6-pole mounted up, as well as a spot for our breakaway cable. Now before we hook everything up, I'm going to give you a measurement of our base plate tab. So ours comes in right at about 16.5 inches, right at 16, close to that. And the reason I give you that is because before getting all of your flat tow stuff, or as you're piecing it all together, something you may or may not need is going to be a high-low adapter for your tow bar. And the best way to determine if you need one or not is take this measurement and then measure from the ground to the center of your hitch pin hole on your RV. And then from there you can determine that rise or drop necessary to get it nice and level. And generally the window is going to be 3 inches, either plus or minus. So if you're out of that range, you do need a high-low adapter to get your tow bar as flat as possible while going down the road, so you get the safest towing experience. Now with that being said, to get this hooked up, we do have a Blue Ox tow bar, so it is going to work directly with our base plate. And so we'll get this lined up and start pinning it all together. So with our tow bar pinned up, the next thing we need to do is get our safety cable. So just like pulling a trailer, your vehicle becomes the trailer. So you want to make sure that it's not going to disconnect, and if it does, we have our cables holding it all together. So we'll crisscross these over, get them hooked up. From here, we're going to get the rest of the components. So we'll get our diode wiring. I'll run my breakaway switch to the hitch on the RV. And then on ours, we have air brakes, so we're going to get our air cable hooked up as well. Now, I mentioned the install a few times. This one isn't too bad, but also you are pulling the fascia off your vehicle, and during that time, it's a great time to get the rest of your flat tow set up. So throughout the process, just keep that in mind. If you're willing to tackle this on your own and you're going to be doing it, I'll walk you through step by step so you can get it installed. But if you decide, you know what, I don't have the time, the place, the tools, or even the want to do this myself or the rest of the flat tow setup, you can find someone close to you to get it installed by using our dealer locator. You simply put in your zip code, you'll find a list of shops close to you that can get this all knocked out for you so you can be out on the road. For those of you that are going to be installing it yourself, follow along, let's get this installed. To get our base plate installed on our Jeep is going to require the fascia coming off. And to preface this, it's a great time to get the rest of your flat tow components set up. In fact, I highly recommend it. It's going to allow you to run all your wires nice and clean. and get it all zip tied up before the fascia goes back on to give you the best clean look and the proper routing. Now, getting the fascia off, if you haven't done this on a vehicle, it's not terribly difficult, but there is going to be a decent amount of hardware coming off, and we're going to have the fascia off for a bit while we put those components in. So having a nice organized spot to keep all of that hardware will make sure that everything goes back together the way that it came apart. So to get this started, we're going to head over to our wheel well, and we're going to start pulling back our wheel well trim. And you'll see I have my wheel turn. That's because we have two rivets that hold in this wheel well trim, and we will need to pull this back. That's going to help us separate the fascia, and the rivets that are here will need to be drilled out. Your kit does come with new ones, so we'll be putting those in a little bit later. And to drill these rivets out, you're going to want, they say, a 3/16 drill bit, something that's larger than this center diameter of the metal pin should work. And you just drill straight through, and a lot of times if you kind of work the drill, it'll pull that cap out with it, and that's kind of what we're looking for. So I'll just start drilling, and the head's already spinning pretty well, so you can see I was able to get the whole thing out, and we'll get the other one drilled out as well. There we go. Now, keep in mind, everything that we're doing on this side, we're going to be repeating on the other side, and that's going to kind of be the nature of this install. So at this point, you can go to the other side, but having these drilled out is going to allow us to pop this trim out. So just reach behind the back, and you can start pulling it out. It should pop off. If it's fighting you, you can peel back the fender liner a little bit, and then these are just little tabs here. You'll just push on that and put some pressure behind here, and then you should be able to pop it out and just work your way up. And as we go back, we don't really need to go any further than this. We just want to get to the seam where the fascia and the front fender meet. And we also have a 10mm screw here that's holding this fender liner in place, so we're going to get that removed as well. Now, underneath our fascia, we have some plastic push pins. Looks to be that there's 4 of them. And to get these removed, there's a slot on each side. So with a trim panel tool like I have here, or a flathead screwdriver, if you can get that center section to pull out a little bit, you normally can get the rest of it to come out. This one's loose, it's a little tricky. This is going to be a little more standard to what you see, but just kind of pry this out. Now, if you do break these, don't be surprised. You know, they've been on the vehicle for quite a while and seen all the elements, and the plastic can get brittle. These ones are fighting me pretty good here, so normally that center section would pop out, but it seems like the whole thing's going to want to come out. There we go. Now, if it is not wanting to slide out, a lot of times it's just buildup of dirt and debris. So if you're really struggling with it, you can hit it with some soapy water from the backside, but for the most part, you can get these popped out. Now we have 2 plastic push pins that are also going to be located on the grill. So open up your hood, and right here on our kind of core support, we'll just pop these out. And if they do separate, just make sure you have both pieces, and that way you have them to put back together when we put the fascia back on. Now, once you get the plastic push pins removed, there's going to be clips that snap into the core support. So just kind of reach underneath the grill, and you'll have one on each side, and this is going to help start to separate everything out. So just pull the grill back. Right on the headlight, there's also a little tab. So if you just lift this up and kind of keep it at this state, because at this point we're going to get ready to pull our fascia off. And I do recommend having an extra set of hands here because fascia is pretty big and we don't want to drop or scratch it. So have a place set up to keep it, and then get that extra set of hands, and then we can start to remove it. So I got Jesse to help me, and what we do is I've taped off the front fender and the fascia just along the edges. That'll help kind of keep any chips or scratches from happening, not only when we remove it, but also when we put it back on. So if you want to do that, it's a nice, easy way to protect it. And then we're just going to start popping out the clips. So reach back behind the painted part, and as you start to put pressure on here, just kind of work your way. There's clips kind of that go along the whole thing. Now it may get tight, and remember up top here to kind of make sure that these stay popped up. And when you start to put a little pressure, we'll start to get the clips to separate. Now, it's very possible though that we have some electrical connections. So as we pull this back, we do want to be fairly careful with it. It looks like on our fog lamps we have a clip for each. So we just pull back these tabs here that lock it in, top and bottom. We'll get that separated. Now once you get that removed, we can grab our fascia and we're going to set it on our cart. Next thing we need to remove is going to be this plastic air dam. These are just quarter turns, so just twist these until they're in straight in line with the vehicle. And then from here, they may fall out, but we'll pull this down, and we are going to be doing some trimming on this. So I'll get this marked out and show you exactly where we need to trim it. Now, pretty easy to cut this. These tabs that stick out with the hooks on them, you're just going to follow along this molding. This tab's going to be cut off, and we're going to do that on both sides. As far as cutting it, you can use a pair of side cutters, but be careful. Sometimes when you start to cut on these, it'll crack plastic further and kind of spider web. So I prefer to use either a cutting wheel, or I use my multi-tool a lot for plastics like this. And we're just going to follow this edge and then cut off these tabs. Now we're going to set this aside. We'll put it back up later, but we're going to want as much space as possible for getting our base plate up. Now our base plate, we are going to need some access back here to get everything bolted up. So the 10 millimeter that attaches our wheel well liner to our skid plate, we're going to take that off. There's going to be one on each side. Now in the instruction manual, there's going to be a lot more steps included if you have tow hooks, because partially the tow hooks live in this area, and that's where we're going to be putting our base plate. So if that's the case, you need to follow the instructions. Unfortunately, I don't have one with the tow hooks to be able to show you all that, but it should be a similar concept once you get to this point. So there's weld nuts that are located right here on the frame rail, and something I'd recommend doing, there's a lot of, being in the Midwest, we get salt and road, grime and whatever it may be, but those can build up rust and corrosion in those weld nuts and make it really difficult to get our hardware in. So what I'd recommend doing first is going to each of them, there's two on each side, and run your hardware through. And if you're starting to get resistance, you can give it a quick bump with a 17 millimeter socket to see if it'll clear through. And ours did. But if it's really fighting you, don't fight it. You can damage the threads on the bolt or even the weld nuts. So if that's the case, you might want to put some penetrating oil, spray it in there, loosen it up with a tube brush if you can, or if it's really significant, running a tap through there is a great way to do that, or using a bolt as a chaser. Either way, make sure that they're cleared out before you raise the base plate up. Otherwise, you're going to be fumbling with the hardware and need to take it down again to clear those out. So better to do it now. And with that being said, once they're all cleared up and you are ready to raise your base plate, you might want an extra set of hands, and just have these bolts ready to go on each side. So it's nice that they included the Loctite, and this is just going to really make sure that, as we go down the road and we're towing our vehicle, we're hitting bumps, it's not going to loosen up the hardware. And it's, just a nice added protection, and the fact that it's included is really cool. So just make sure you get all 4 bolts with that thread lock on before raising your base plate up and bolting these down. With the threads cleared out, got my hardware set up, I'm going to be doing this myself. Shouldn't be too terribly hard. Now, something that's kind of curious is the sticker that's on our base plate, it's upside down. Don't trust that. You want the flat section right here to rest up against those weld nuts. So make sure that you have it in this orientation, and then this will slide in. And our goal is to just get one started on each side. So slide this back until those holes are aligned. And if we get one started with a few threads, that'll hold the base plate up. And it's pretty tight here in the front, so I see why they had us remove that bolt that was on the fender liner so you can gain access. But if I can just get this started, I can go to the other side, do the same. That'll hold the base plate up, make it easy to get the rest of the hardware started. And once all your hardware is started, we'll snug everything down with our 17 millimeter socket. Now, we are going to come back with the torque wrench, so no need to get crazy here. We just want to draw it up and have it snug, and the torque wrench will take care of the rest. Now, our torque wrench settings are going to be found in the instruction manual, and we'll get these all torqued down. But if you don't have a torque wrench at home and you're doing this installation, I would recommend getting one. Maybe not buying one, but you can go to an auto parts store and rent one for free. And this is really going to just make sure that long term it's going to be tight enough to tow your vehicle down. You'll have that peace of mind, not worrying that if you over tightened or under tightened. So we'll go through and get these all torqued down. Now the base plate's officially installed, and to make sure that it stays in place, yes, our hardware should hold everything in, but strange things can happen and we want to be safe. So included are going to be these safety cables, and this is going to wrap around the frame structure of our base plate and around the frame of our vehicle. So even if all that hardware was to fail, it's still going to at least hold the vehicle to the tow bar, and that way it's not disconnecting down the road. So to get these in place, I think the easiest shot is going to be just pass it over. And I'm just going to wrap this around. Now I can't do 2 wraps, but make sure that you are indeed wrapping around the support. If you want, you could go around the frame. It's a little bit tighter of a run here, but just making sure that the base plate, if this was to pull out, it's going to hold here and it's going to hold here. So I'm just going to loop this around until I can get a nice connection with my quick link, and we'll do this on both sides. Now, a lot of times, again, this is just for last line of defense. So you can zip tie this up out of the way. If it's getting in the way of anything, feel free to do that, because really it's just here just in case. So the main thing is we have room for all of our components and we're not rubbing against anything in the engine bay. So once I get this looped on, we'll just tighten down our clamp. So base plate's officially installed, and as I said earlier, you're going to want to leave your fascia off to get the rest of your components up, and we're going to be doing that. But something that we're going to need to do eventually is trim out the spot for our arms to go through. Now some models will have probably clips that are very similar to this just for this inset, and you can pop that out. It'll be nice and clean, no worries, and it'll fit through here. Ours, not the case. We do need to cut this out, and you can see this molded line. We're going to be cutting this out. Me personally, I'm going to flip it over so I can see exactly where I'm cutting, and that way it's going to be the cleanest cut possible. So where we're going to be cutting is just this grill inset, and I think if I follow this line, that'll be good. But what I'll end up doing is kind of cut along this grill section where it juts out, and I can always file the rest down to get that nice clean look. Now, as far as cutting, again, it kind of depends on what cutting method that you have handy, but a Dremel will work really well. I'm going to use my multi-tool. Those tend to work really well. But really, again, you can always file down any of those rough edges. So whatever you need to do to get these all knocked out, that's what we're going to do. Now with our file, or if you have a sanding bit, whatever you want to use, we'll just clean this all up, make it look nice and presentable, because this is what you're going to see when it's reinstalled on your Jeep. Once we get that cleaned up, like I said, we'll get the rest of our components up, and then this will all go back together in the reverse order. So pretty straightforward there, but when it comes to those rivets that we drilled out, the kit includes it, and I'll show you how to do that. So I'll get all my components mounted up, and alongside with that, I'm also going to use the included 6-pole bracket ideally to get everything mounted up. So just be aware that more than likely you are going to be trimming out just a little bit more for your 6-pole and your breakaway switch. So just keep that in mind. So I got all of our flat toe components set up, and last we left, we didn't have our bracket mounted up. So what I ended up doing was bending the tabs in a vise and drilling holes through the bumper beam to create our mounting point. Now, self-tapping screws on a bumper beam generally doesn't go very well. So what I ended up doing is just drilling it out and then putting a bolt and a nut to tighten this all down. So put our breakaway switch here. I did put a bracket just to kind of set this back. But mocking it up, this should put us at a spot where when we trim out the grill, it should sit pretty well flush or close to it. Should be a clean look overall. So this is kind of what we have going. Now we've already trimmed out the spots for our arms, which is good. So at this point, what we're going to do is grab our front fascia and slide it on and kind of mock it up as close as we can to where it should start bottoming out on this. And that's going to tell us pretty much where we need to cut out to get that to seat through. So I'll get this in place, and I would grab a chalk marker or a paint marker so you can mark out where you need to cut. And just kind of holding this up roughly where we're at, we see pretty quickly on our grill where we need to cut out. So just start at the furthest out place. Also, we want to make sure we have enough space for our latch to open up. So I'm going to mark this out. And really with this honeycomb grill, you can just use a pair of side cutters to cut out exactly where you need to go. But as we hold this up and cut it, we should be able to draw this back until we have it pretty well seated all the way. So really we'll just trim it until it fits. And then from there, we can put it back in the reverse order that we took it off. Make sure you plug in your fog lamps. But other than that, that's really going to be it for the installation. And just kind of working around here. Remember, you can always cut off more. So start small and try to get a small footprint on here. And we'll just try to keep this as clean as possible. And if you really take your time, you can get this to look, I'm not going to say factory, but as close to factory as possible. But this step, you know, don't rush this because this is what your vehicle is going to look like while out on the road. So yeah, this is a step that, you know, you will see every time you hook up. As I slide this back, I still have a little bit of room to go, so I'm going to keep cutting until it all draws back nice and easy. Now once everything's back in place, we did drill out those rivets and we do need to replace them with our new ones. So the first step is where we drilled them out, make sure that there's no leftover plastic in those holes. And with a rivet, if you've never done these before, they're actually pretty easy. If you do have a rivet gun, you can use that on these plastic ones and it should work just fine. But if you don't have a rivet gun, I'm going to show you a way that you can get these in place still. So what you're going to do is hold pressure against the button, and then this stock that's kind of hanging out, we want to pull that out as much as possible. So I'm going to hold it in place here, and I just have a pair of side cutters. I'm not going to cut the plastic, but get a bite on it, and you're going to pull this out as much as you can. And it's going to mushroom the backside to where it closes it all up. So try to get that pulled off as much as possible. And then once you get it to a point where it stops, the end should break off nice and clean, leaving you with a rivet that's now in place. So pretty easy, but yeah, main thing is keep pressure on that button, pull this out, and you'll be good to go. And that was a look and installation of the eTrailer base plate on a 2017 Jeep Grand Cherokee. Hopefully this video was helpful in getting your base plate installed. And throughout the process, if there's anything that I could have done better, or was the video even helpful, either way, all of that feedback really helps us make our videos as best as possible. So feel free to share any comments down below. My name's Brad. Thanks for watching.